You have a try, but I don't know that that'll work.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, sorry about that.
Right on time. 6 p.m., Monday, April 4th, 2022, regular meeting of the Windsor Heights City Council. Roll call.
Susan Skerrys.
Here.
Michael Libby.
Here.
Lauren Campbell.
Here.
And Teresa Harms.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Skerrys.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
And Teresa Harms.
Yeah.
3A, public hearing on the FY 2022-2023 capital improvements plan. Motion to open public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Oh, roll call.
Roll call.
Susan Skerrys.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
And Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Is there anybody here from the public to speak on the capital improvements plan? Okay. Discussion amongst council?
I received an email asking about 64th Street. At one point in time, it was on the CIP, and it's no longer on the CIP anymore. And they're just questioning why 64th, or at least it was talked about being on the CIP, but it's not there anymore, and they're just questioning why streets that aren't as well traveled are, you know, receiving or looking at being replaced, or, you know, whatever they're doing.
Well, as far as the addition or prioritization of the projects, I think maybe Dalton or Justin could speak to that, but generally the understanding is that the less traveled streets, understandably, they are less traveled, but they are still part of Windsor Heights and have very, very poor pavement conditions. That said, I don't think it's an issue to make an addition to 64th, at the very least, to get it on the CIP, even if it is unscheduled at this time. Dennis?
Totally agree. We've been through the process with the CIP. This document has been, I think, molded over the last 2 years now, and during all the public discussions, 64th Street hasn't been added to this point, but if the council chooses to amend the CIP as is presented this evening and then adopt it, we can schedule 64th towards the bottom of the list as an unscheduled and unfunded project with some others as it stands today.
Can we be told by you, Dalton or Justin, if it were to be added, what would it be? I really doubt we're talking full reconstruction at this point.
I'd have to look at the PCI and stuff, but I'd assume.
I would assume that it would be
Yeah.
full reconstruction. It's,
Oh.
you know,
Because-
we have a lot going on in the middle of the street and near the curb basins. So what that indicates is that there's a sub-base failure that would just contribute to additional failures if we were to do a mill and overlay. So then 64th Street's also pretty lengthy, a number of intersections from the school all the way down to University. So it's going to be a considerable project.
Now, can I also ask, maybe Dalton, maybe I cut you off, go ahead and
Sorry.
so I thought at one point in time, and I have no idea if this was at a public works meeting, if this was, I don't recall where this was talked about, but that it would have to be fully reconstructed, including taking out the sidewalk. Is that a fair, and will we be widening that, or how does that work? Because I was asked that, and was asked why we would widen it, and I have no idea. I can't even tell you where I received the information from you.
Sure. Okay. So to answer your question, yeah, it would be kind of silly to design a street around an existing sidewalk. The project could be done with saving the sidewalk, it just wouldn't really save you any money. The issue lies adjusting the street grade to make it drain properly. And if you adjust street grade, you gotta adjust your driveway approaches. If you address the driveway approaches, you gotta take out chunks of sidewalk, so. In order to save half of this, I mean, some of the sidewalk, it would have to get torn out, but in order to save half the sidewalk, you wouldn't really save any money. So to do it properly, you might as well just take it all out.
And I can answer your width too. Generally, the streets in Windsor Heights are like 25-ish feet wide. We've been going to 27. That's kind of a standard like fire department code type of thing for being able to get fire department through and their outriggers. Plus, once you do that, when you pave it, the width of the paver, those tracks stick out like 3 to 4 feet. So that's another. So if it's 27, you're adding another 8 feet onto that just to get a paver through it. So that kind of limits your sidewalk savings.
So to bring the paver in and have the tracks like you'd see on a tank or whatever else or an excavator, the tracks for that thing would be right on top of where the sidewalk is now, because it's already, and this is far before he or I got here, anybody else was on the council, I think, but this is before we got here, sitting closer to the road than it probably should, so. And I know there was a whole discussion about that back in like 2016.
Teresa, did you get all that? I know Justin was.
Sorry.
That's all right.
For the most part.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Process-wise, I think it's always better to have more projects on your CIP so that you can plan accordingly. And considering that there's really no chance 64th Street's gonna go next year or even the year after that, we will plug it into the list. And even if it's not in the right place, when we get some real costs of, for this project, next year when the council goes through the CIP, they can rearrange and rejuggle if they see that as a more of a priority than the ones that are already on the list. So for tonight's purposes, approving the CIP with 64th Street added to it, staff will make sure that gets put on the list as an unscheduled project.
Further discussion, council. Okay, hearing none, move. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna defer to anybody there before I ask questions. Okay, so real quick, do we have, or I just wanna make sure, and, are we assuming, that, or, that's not the question I wanted to ask, I'm sorry. We don't have anything, this is for fiscal year 23, and do we have any fiscal year 22 projects that still aren't finished?
Well, we're wrapping up our road projects, and once we have those wrapped up, we will have a solid number on what road funds are left over for FY '23 projects, but I can't think of any other projects that are outlined right now. The only project that we were trying to do this year was reconstruction of the public safety parking lot, and as you recall, the materials and the bids came in for that more than double what we had estimated, and so that's really on hold now until we can get a better handle on what material costs are gonna do, because we could bid that tomorrow, and because of the quick changing costs associated with materials, that could be an overbid project by the time we get this approved. So we're gonna wait on the public safety parking lot. After that, I don't think we have any outstanding capital projects.
Okay, thanks, Donna. And then, does this then include all of the funds we identified during our budget process available for, road construction, all of the infrastructure projects, et cetera. So I just want to make sure, because there wasn't a total number on here for spend for fiscal year '23.
Yes, all the funds are appropriated.
Okay. And then does anybody know what the total spend is for fiscal year '23? I'm gonna add that up today, but,
Rochelle's looking it up right now.
okay.
$5,655,000.
$5,655,000.
Thank you.
Now, there is one recent wrinkle that maybe it's worth the council knowing this evening, but Rochelle just attended a training session that talked more about the ARPA money, and they have loosened the guidelines for that to basically pay for anything. Almost anything.
Anything street related, absolutely.
Yes, so you remember the council allocated that $757,000 to the flood mitigation. And we do not have a flood mitigation project programmed at this time. So if those projects just get delayed until we get a FEMA grant, the council will have the opportunity to reallocate that to another project next year. So right now it's sitting as a flood mitigation project that is unspent.
And that was 700 and,
It was in the ballpark of 757, that's what I remember.
Yes.
okay, thanks, Ben. Sorry, I'm just making calls.
Council, anything else? Motion to close public hearing.
So
Move.
second.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
3B, consideration of resolution 2022-24, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital improvement plan. Motion.
So moved.
Approved.
Do we have to add, second? I need second.
Yeah, well, I think,
There's a tie between Michael and Teresa.
well, first off, as it is a document that's being passed by resolution, I think there needs to be, the motion needs to be to add the 64th, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
with the amendment. So I think Teresa and Michael, you tied. Will one of you make that motion with that 64th Street amendment?
Sure, I would move to accept the CIP with the addition of 64th Street to that document.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
And Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Item 4, public forum. This is the time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes.
Darren Series, 1441 64th Street. I wanted to address some comments that were made on the March 21st council meeting by Mr. Libby. I believe to summarize, a conversation was being taken place about what it would take to do staffing at an event. Mr. Libby made a comment about being deputized. There was another comment about, well, then you have to deal with drunks or whatever that may be, and Mr. Libby's comment was, shoot them. I understand that was probably a joke. My concern with that is, as a public official, that comes off as completely tone deaf to the climate of every community across the country right now, with the level of violence that goes on. It comes across as tone deaf towards our police officers, every other law enforcement officer that has to go do that job in a time where everything they do is scrutinized, they don't seem to be able to do anything right. I think that comes off as insensitive. As someone who has worked in law enforcement, I don't necessarily like the commenting. I understand it was probably said as a joke. However, it seems wildly insensitive, and it diminishes what really goes on to do that job. Again, as someone who's been in law enforcement and has had the unfortunate opportunity to have another human being at gunpoint faced with the decision of, do I shoot this person, do I not shoot this person, your mind racing 1,000 different scenarios a second on how this might play out. I think that to me is a little bit concerning. I don't like the word triggering, but it's upsetting on that level, especially in light of, we're talking about just a drunk who might want to fight. And I'm just going back to the officers of this community that not that long ago were taking cover behind a tree in our community as bullets were striking that tree. They used great restraint not to shoot anybody. And again, I think that comment diminishes what really goes on with the integrity and the responsibility of those that wear that badge. The second piece on that is, it was obviously took people aback. You could tell watching the video that the members of the council were kind of surprised by that comment. In an environment where I think a student would probably be facing expulsion for making comments like that, even if it's a joke, I know we're probably not going to expel Mr. Libby from the council, and that's not what I'm asking by any stretch. But again, as someone who is an elected official, it comes across as very kind of tone deaf to what goes on. And I don't like demands either, so I'm not demanding anything take place, but I was a little taken back that maybe the mayor or the council didn't admonish those comments more during that process. It seemed to get kind of swept under the floor as a little bit of a faux pas joke, but it's a significant joke nonetheless. And again, not demanding anything, but I do think that the members of this law enforcement community here throughout our metro and the citizens that the individuals elected represent deserve an apology for those comments.
Thank you, Darren. You are correct. I think I personally was taken aback by those things, by that comment. And so that is why I did not address it at that time, so that's my fault. I should have done something at that time, Mr. Libby. I addressed this in private with Mr. Libby, letting him know that it was not appropriate. And so if there's anything he wishes to say, he can certainly do that. But from my perspective, I should have done a better job, and so I apologize for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Skirries. Yes, and it was an unfortunate slip of the tongue, and I apologize for that rookie mistake.
Thank you for apologizing publicly, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from the public? Consent agenda, item 5, motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris,
Yes.
Michael Libby,
Yes.
Lauren Campbell,
Yes.
and Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Item 6A, consideration of Windsor Heights Fall Festival and Independence Day activities. I suppose questioning what the motion would be. Motion to approve the recommendation, or
Well, the recommendation of the
Our-
special events committee or of the foundation, or how does that work?
Where did this recommendation come from?
So the one on the left, the compromise for March 25th, that was the recommendation of the special events committee. And then I believe the one on the right, the letter from Mark, the foundation on April 1st, that is what the recommendation was, that the foundation came back and emailed all of council.
So, and that was added to the packet, the ask of the foundation. So on the right-hand side is the request from the foundation that was added to the packet.
This is just kind of put into, so that we could do side by side.
Fair. Is there going to be a committee or someone from the foundation giving a presentation or comments in advance?
So, yes, so the Special Events Committee has some comments, and then I'm sure the foundation will want to speak as well before we make any decisions. That,
Yeah, so typically before the council takes action, you want a motion and a second before you have your discussion, but I don't think it's clear what we're considering yet. So perhaps if there is some update that the committees would like to provide, we can do that before we have the motion and the second for consideration.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor, are you comfortable with that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that, Dennis.
It seems in the process of government, it's always good to have a presentation and a proposal, and that's something to be discussed. So if the foundation has a request of the city council, i.e. to fund fireworks or whatever, then my recommendation would be that the foundation come to the podium, make the recommendation, and then the discussion would happen, and that would involve comments and discussion that happened at the community events planning committee.
Sure.
Was that last week or the week before?
that was on the
25th.
Yep.
All right, so who wants to start?
Sounds like the foundation presenting their request of the city.
All right.
Mark Aarons with the Windsor Heights Foundation and current president. And our proposal, though there was several possibilities that were thrown out, as the foundation board voted on that, we came up with what we felt comfortable with and what we were asking of the city council to do. At this time, we are asking the city council to work with the foundation in covering for the 4th of July event, and where the city council would basically pay for the off-duty police coverage. We estimated that between $600 and $800. Pay for the Windsor Heights Fire Department, the 3 individuals that would be needed for the fireworks. That was another $1,314. And also coordinate with the fireworks vendor who, in the past, I think the city has worked with, to our knowledge. And so, and then also pay for the public works coverage of individuals there. And lastly, the insurance coverage, which we are not sure what that amount has been in the past. It is our proposal that then the Windsor Heights Foundation would offer to pay $10,000 for fireworks. Again, we're still paying for the band that would take place prior to the fireworks. The foundation also organizes and pays for all the porta potties that would be necessary for the event. The foundation also would organize any of the food trucks that would be at the event for that. And we also are the ones that would help organize and bring in volunteers as needed. So that is our proposal on that for the city, is to lessen the cost burdens on the city compared to what originally was put forward, and the foundation pick up a higher cost for this year. Going forward, we want to work with the Special Events Committee, and this would give us time for 2023 to have an actual campaign out there for the 4th of July itself.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, thank you, Mark, for taking the time to walk us through that. I know, in email communication, things can get lost and confused, so I appreciate you presenting, the request from the foundation.
And so this is not what we discussed at our special events committee meeting, because this is the foundation accepting a greater financial responsibility than we originally discussed, and so that is appreciated. Special events committee, either Susan or Lauren, if you want to.
Yeah, in reading through the request, so that's on the right-hand side for council looking, comparing the two. There's a couple of areas that are concerned. I don't think they're things that we can't work through, but they're just some concern. I don't believe the city can employ police officers off-duty because they're actually employees of the city. So we would, in this scenario, we would need to do the mandated call-in. Chief, I apologize, I'm probably using the wrong terminology, but we would have to require the officers to work. It wouldn't be the off-duty that we could tap into a larger network of officers to work. So if we wanted that opportunity to still be flexible for Windsor Heights staff, it would need to be the foundation requesting the off-duty officers, if that makes sense. Chief, am I explaining that correctly?
Pretty much, yes. We would open it up for somebody to volunteer to pick up that time, and if not, they'd have to be mandated. But the city cannot have an employee work by FLSA for anything other than their normal contractual pay rates and benefits.
Sure.
So outside of that, it would have to be some other arrangement with somebody else paying.
Gotcha. And so that would be treated just like a wedding reception at the CEC, where they tell you they're gonna have alcohol, so you put out the request for off-duty. They write the check to the city of Windsor Heights, but you're coordinating the staffing for it through the partnering agencies as well, if we don't have volunteers on our staff. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. And then another area of concern was the insurance coverage for the event, since it's the foundation's event. I know in 2018, the foundations had insured all of the nights in the Heights, and they did that through a partnership with the chamber. And then after that year went back onto their own. So as a foundation event and not a City of Windsor Heights event, I would assume it would need to be under the insurance policy for the foundation. Looking for Aaron to nod or disagree.
Oh, no,
Okay,
no, that's
okay,
correct.
okay.
It's partially correct.
Okay.
Anything that happens on public property, whether it's being run by a third party or the foundation, the city's liable for what occurs on that property. So that means that we have to have an interest in making sure that what's being done is appropriate. What the city does to defray that is to require any third party to get their own liability insurance and name the city as an additional insured. That's standard practice and common. So we would do the same thing here. That means you hold your own policy, and anything that affects the city would fall under our general liability policy.
Lauren, do you have, I just want to clarify something. So when Lauren was talking about like the CEC, the overtime, that type of thing, that's not the city mandating, correct? That is like if the off-duty because what I did was I emailed the foundation, I emailed Mark exactly what he had to say in an email to Chief McCluskey so that he knew exactly what, it detailed out, this is what you have to ask for, you have to ask for this time. Then Chief McCluskey would take that email and he would proceed forward. So I also said the same thing about the fire department. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that, it would be different. There's one thing if we're mandating, there's one thing if the foundation is covering the cost for the off-duty, which is why when we came up with the compromise, that's why we had the foundation paying for the fire department and the police department, and that's why I sent the email out detailed, very detailed as to how this has to work. So you basically are just copying and pasting and sending it on to Chief McCluskey. So, I mean, we've tried to be as accommodating as we can on this, just because we knew that there would be the difference between pay for city mandated holiday and the overtime, and, you know, it was kind of a little sticky area, so that was one thing that I want to make sure we clarify.
So if I understand now, the difference between, the compromise from our special events call to the ask of the foundation is it's gone from a $10,000 ask for fireworks to, if the city is paying for fire, the public works coverage, and let's say all the $5,000 for fireworks, so the high end of the ask, that's a total of $6,566 from the city, and then the rest of the planning, coordinating, everything, porta potty scheduling, everything else, the foundation is willing to own. Is that, am I summarizing it effectively?
I think the foundation, I think, is proposing to pay for everything.
Minus the, yeah, so I should, another key point was the making sure that they're doing the planning, volunteering, making sure that that was all covered.
Yes, so, let's see, the fireworks are to be covered by the foundation, is that right, Mark?
Well, sorry.
Is the foundation paying for the fireworks?
One of our questions is whether or not, you know, we paid for the previous.
Can you come to the podium? I'm sorry, just because
All right,
Teresa's
sorry.
on the phone.
Sorry, very quick question. So in the past, we paid for all the insurance. Fireworks adds a new dimension. I don't know how much that additional will cost, because obviously a band and listening to music is a lower risk than having fireworks. So I'm just curious if you guys have any sense to what that cost might be. And I'm just guessing with an umbrella policy for a city, and this just being maybe a tack on, I don't know, that might have been a lower cost than us getting it separately, but that's my question.
Sure, I think I can speak to that, if it's all right.
Yeah, go.
When the chamber had insurance for these events, that was through Jester Insurance Company in Des Moines, and I recall that payment was roughly $1,700
Okay,
for the entire time period.
that's helpful.
And from the city's perspective, we do not make changes to our insurance coverage, so we have the fireworks, we already know we're gonna do that as a matter of being a municipality, so there is no additional charge to the city to do that.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Susan.
No, go
I was gonna say, so if we look at the most recent ask from the foundation, which was the email that was sent to us on the 1st, and if we transfer the off-duty police coverage and the insurance back to the foundation, but the city takes on more towards the higher end for the fireworks cost in their request, because they requested $2,500 to $5,000. So the $1,314 for fire department, Chad's time doesn't have a dollar amount assigned to it for coordinating with the firework vendor, but $5,000 towards fireworks, and then the public works cost, I'm adding up $6,566 is the ask of the foundation of the city in order to have the July 4th event. Am I provided number one?
Am I looking at a different wrong document?
$6,500.
6,566. I did please correct me if I'm wrong. Luckily, my Spanish teachers live in the city, but not my math teachers from high school. $1,314 for fire, $252 for public works, and $5,000 for fireworks. So I got.
So we're not doing the off-duty, oh wait, the city.
So
Okay. So we aren't,
the off-duty police and the insurance, transfer that back to the foundation.
so Chad, what does that do with the pay? Does that change any of the fire department pay? If the city is paying for now this, it does not change the pay at all?
Not for fire, no.
But it would change it to be mandated if we don't have 3 people that want to.
Correct. There's no way around that though, because you can't bring in, you can't go hire 3 off-duty firefighters from another community. So, they have to have an engine, they have to have equipment, so there's no way around that.
So because those 2 expenses of the insurance and the off-duty police, what I am then suggesting that the city offer the higher dollar amount for the fireworks coverage, so that it's a little bit more balanced in line with what your original request was on the first. So the, and I obviously what Susan, I don't speak for both Susan and I here, but if the council wants to move forward with supporting this event, that's per the special events memo that we added to the packet, that $6,566 we'll need to find out, we'll need to decide where that's coming from in our budget, because it's outside of the scope for the plans for the special events committee. So the memo that we put together was, our recommendation was that the council review the request from the foundation, and if approved, identify funds outside of the special events budget for 2022-2023 for this request. So,
Just a point of clarification. I think we're asking, the foundations has $2,500 to $5,000 for additional fireworks, correct?
Additional, we had allotted that we could go up to another 2,000 if we needed to, but if we're lowering the actual costs on that, we
Sure.
don't mind melding and changing some things.
So how much money are you looking at providing for fireworks? So like, what is the top number here? Because I think it's kind of getting muddy as to what, this has been a very confusing time this weekend. Lauren and I have spent a lot of time on this, a lot of time on an event that isn't really our event. We have had to put our events on the back burner, the ones that we actually have signed up to do, to try to figure this all out, because we kind of got sidelined because all of a sudden we thought we were coming in with this proposal. It was nice, packaged, neatly written up, and then on Friday we find out something else. So I just want to make sure that we understand how much money, so Chad can go and say, okay, Mr. Fireworks guy, we're gonna provide $10,000 or $12,000 or whatever the case may be, but what is the total for the fireworks? What is the foundation willing to give? And what, like, I think if we go back to you wanted the city to put in between $2,500 and $5,000. So.
With that, with the information tonight on that, I would say that we are authorized to still work with $10,000 from the foundation.
So if I'm reading this.
So any additional amounts that the city would be willing to put in on that just makes the show that much better.
So when I was adding up the figures that we have in front of us, and without the 5,000 or 25, or the additional city input for the fireworks, I came to $4,067. And if you minus out the insurance, I'm not sure that's, and you're picking up insurance on your side, it's really $3,700. And the foundation, according to these numbers, is willing to put up $13,200. If
Michael, in your number, are you including the $600 to $800 for off-duty police?
yeah.
So as we said at the start, the city can't pay for off-duty
Right,
police?
so we're gonna have to, so the foundation would have to add to that $13,200.
Yes, which in what I had suggested then would be into contributing to the fireworks, and it's kind of offsetting that.
So where did you get your numbers? Just so I,
Just from the sheet that I got.
in which sheet are you looking at?
This is the memo that was appended to the city.
a few different memos, so I wanted to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page because it has been a little confusing.
Okay. So, Teresa, you've been
Yeah,
fortunately quiet.
yeah, well, I'm listening. I guess maybe I'll start out by saying that first, I'm supportive of the 4th of July event, so that probably should, that's right on the table. So I would also ask the question of the insurance coverage and why would it not be possible for, has the chamber and the foundation always covered the insurance, or have we covered the insurance? As Dennis said, we already have that coverage, so I guess my question is why, is there gonna be an added cost to us or not?
No, there won't be an added cost. However, to protect the city, anybody that comes and uses public property, we ask them to get their own liability insurance so that they can be the ones responsible. However, we're required to always have liability insurance for public properties.
Right, so my question is, last year, did we require the foundation or the chamber or anybody else to carry additional insurance coverage for the fireworks? Or,
Not that I know of.
okay.
Teresa, to answer your question about the chamber did carry insurance for the parade.
Okay, but we're not doing a parade.
Right, no, I'm just saying that as far as, you mentioned the chamber, so that's why I brought it up. We know in 2018 that the foundation did have insurance for the event, and actually there was a claim that was paid out from that insurance too that year. So I would be surprised to learn that the foundation hasn't had insurance.
We have always had insurance for the band, the music portion, not for the fireworks.
Okay.
Teresa, were you able to hear that?
Yep, I was. So I would suggest that we do the insurance for the fireworks, that I would, as part of what we're recommending or considering. And then I think, as I understand, the fireworks is anything above and beyond, and that was based on the commentary from the previous meetings that we could see an upwards of, a third of the cost increase just due to supply and cost and inflation and all of those things we're seeing. So I'm assuming that that's why they've requested the additional fireworks amount of money because of that commentary. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But so I guess I would support the insurance coverage, the additional fireworks coverage, and I think we have plenty of, if we need to make an amendment. I've not seen the special events budget, and so if you want to charge maybe the budget committee with coming up with the resources to be able to support this, then maybe that's the direction to go, and we can take that back to the budget committee to come up with where we recommend that the dollars come from.
First off, real quick, Teresa, if you thought that I was saying that we were fortunate that you were being quiet, that is not what I meant. What I meant was, you were fortunate that you do not have to engage in the back and forth that's going on here, and you get to be quiet. That is what I was saying, so I just want to clarify that. Dennis, you clearly want to speak.
Yes, I think that we're making this bigger than it has to be. So the quick and easy motion and support would be the council authorize a dollar amount for assisting with the 4th of July event, period. So if that is, let's see, if it's adding up the column here on the right and coming up with about $4,000, then I would suggest the council just say, motion to authorize contribution of $4,000 by the city, let it go at that, and let the foundation deal with the rest of the costs associated with the event.
Well, what is the number that we're settling on?
Can I ask a question? My concern with a couple of the items goes back to the money to cover an expense, but it's still the foundation needs to request the police coverage from Chad. And I have concerns about our ability to insure an event that's not ours. It's not a city event, it's the foundation's event. So providing money for the insurance policy for fireworks is something that logically makes sense to me, but adding it to our insurance, I dabble in just enough health insurance stuff, but I question if we're able to do that. If it's not a city event, if it's the foundation's event, I would think that the foundation would have to hold the policy for it.
And as I stated earlier, we always hold the policy for all events on public property. So the fireworks will be covered partially by the city, whether the foundation does it or not, and we do not incur any additional expense to make that premium payment.
Sure. But we also require them to have insurance as somebody hosting an event in the park.
And that would protect us against negligence from the third party who's doing the event, yes. So if something were to happen with the fireworks that was negligence or the fault of the foundation, then we would seek their insurance provider to cover that expense. However, we ultimately have to have that liability insurance coverage to protect against anything that would happen on our property.
So can I ask, let's say that I'm planning this great event because I'm rich, I've got a bunch of money, and I'm gonna come to the community event center, I'm gonna rent that out, I'm gonna have a band out there, and then I'm going to provide fireworks. I'm gonna pay for it myself, you know, out of my pocket, because I'm rich. I'm going to go to Chad, I'm gonna ask for everything to be taken care of. Would I be required to have the insurance, or would the city have the insurance, because the city is insured, but would I have to have insurance if I was planning this big
Yes.
gala?
Yes.
So then, why isn't the foundation having to cover the insurance for the fireworks, you know, and instead what I've heard is we're trying to use the insurance for the city because we're already having that.
That's not what I want. I want them to pay everything, I want them to protect the city as much as we possibly by law can make them do. I don't want to take on that liability by myself.
Well, I didn't think you did, but I might not have been
I'm sweating
clear on, well, don't worry, I was sweating as well on that one. But I think I was kind of confused with your conversation with Lauren that maybe we weren't on the same page. And we've been off page for a while here, so I would like to get back on page because this has been a frustrating 2 weeks, I can say.
Well, I would like to just add then, I have a question, and just a clarification, we are contributing to the cost of the fireworks, correct? I mean, that's part of the request?
Aren't we just giving like $4,000 to, we're saying, hey, here's $4,000. You guys do what you want with this money. Have at it if you want to put it on food trucks, if you want to put it on whatever, but we are only going to pay you $4,000. So we're not telling them what they're doing with that $4,000. Am I correct? We're just writing a check that says.
Well, I think if you're referring to that was Dennis's suggestion.
Yes.
I mean, no one has moved any further
No.
than what Dennis just said.
Nobody listens to Dennis's
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah, well,
I did.
well, but the way I understand it is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that the 10,000 will be expended by the foundation, but the 2,500 to 5,000 will be added on top of that?
Can I,
Yeah, please.
okay. Okay, just for everyone, Leslie Gorman here. I'm a member at large of the foundation. And I just want to take some perspective here. The 4th of July celebration is
I can't
not.
really hear,
Can you hear me now?
I don't know if the
Check the
microphone's on.
button, okay.
There we
Yeah,
go.
that sounds better and different.
oh, much better,
Okay, sorry about that.
thank you.
This is supposed to be a collaborative event between the foundation and the city. And I find it really offensive for someone to say, we're gonna give you $4,000, go away, when the foundation loves the city, wants to work with you, and truly, truly wants this to be collaborative. We want this to be a success. We don't know what you've spent on all the fireworks. We don't have all the details. I feel as though we're a little bit blind as well, and I feel your pain when you're saying that. Would love to sit down and figure out, okay, here's the budget in the past, here's an RFP for fireworks, maybe you've already done this work, and forgive me if I don't know this. But let's get a real budget going, and then we can finalize. In the spirit of collaboration, we're saying, we'll give you 10,000, we had never done that before. In the spirit of collaboration, we'll give you another 2,000 if we need to, we don't know. We would love for you to be a part of this. If you could add in 4,000 to 5,000, again, we don't know. That's just the fireworks expense. Whatever doesn't work and the rules about employment, we get that. If there's a way that we can pay for that, we will do that. We want this to work. We want to work with you. So we could come to you and say, we have $12,000 or we have $14,000, how can we make this work? I don't know which way is easier, here's 4,000, go away. But we want this to work. And that's what I would like to end with.
If I might.
Go ahead.
Leslie, I apologize if I've given you the impression that we're trying to say, here's $4,000, go away. That's not in the spirit that I don't think of anyone at the dais. I apologize if I've given you that perspective. You know, I hear you when you say that you want that the foundation's seeking collaboration. The things that you asked for were things that we talked about at our special events committee meeting, and we collaborated and reached, you know, with clear communication on what we were going to do, who was going to do what, and what the request was. And so I appreciate that the foundation is interested and willing to do more. But the ask to the city, for the city to support the foundation's event is something that's logical, makes sense to me. The city is not in a position, Special Events Committee is not in a position to plan an event on the 4th, that you guys are already in the process of planning. And so you offering money for the event, while generous, we just don't have that capacity. And so the ask
I'm not talking about the entire event, I'm just talking about the expense of the fireworks. That's all what I meant. I'm sorry if I was confusing.
Just something right quick that might help on the fireworks. The fireworks literally don't have a number to them. It's what you want to spend. So the way that works is I take the amount you tell me to take to the vendor, they build a show based on that. So it's not, if we spent $9,500 last year, if you want to spend $10,000, it's completely an ambiguous number that you decide how much you want to spend, and they'll build a show that surrounds that, if that helps at all.
Have they given you any cost estimates for increases or anything?
30% over last year.
Totally 30%. So
Yep.
whatever the budget was last year, just times a third.
For a similar show. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And that has been something that we've gone over. I mean, this was something that was talked about during our special events committee meeting, that last year it was like $94,500. That's what the city paid for the fireworks. So, and I wrote it up, it was very specific, that said, you know, if you want to have the same exact event as last year, same time, same look, then you need to add 30% on. You know, these are things that I did as the special events person to try to make this so that we could completely understand, so it was very right out there, you know, up front, that these are the costs. And that was given out we discussed this March 25th. So I don't know, you know, if some of this wasn't all given back to people, but, you know, this was something that we did provide, just because that's, maybe we're overachievers, I don't know, but I wanna make sure that everybody knows, you know, expectations and what was there, and I also didn't wanna be the one that, if the fireworks, you know, weren't big and huge, that it was my fault.
I think it should be understood that this was, there were multiple conversations about this with, I believe, all of the information provided. So I think maybe what council's struggling with right now is sort of the, you know, what we had spoken about on the 25th and then what we get on the 1st are, two different things, albeit one is more generous than the other. Nonetheless, council, you need to decide what you want to do. If anything, you don't have to do anything.
Well, this is true, obviously, I have received a lot of comments, and emails from folks who are interested in, seeing this event continue in our community. I did receive a couple that said to forego it, but the majority of, the super majority of the comments that I received from people were to see it move forward. I have, a different opinion about the approach, and so I don't know if it makes sense to, I don't know if we punt on this, I don't know if we, it sounds like maybe we don't have the support of all the council at this juncture, so I just don't, I don't know how to, I don't want this issue, we obviously need to address it, and I don't know if we need to wait until everybody gets back, or if we're going to table it, or we're going to continue to gather more information.
I don't think we can wait, though. I think that's, like, we should have had this decision last council meeting.
The reason why it's on the agenda is because we need to decide. Because time is of the essence here, and I know the special events committee wants to put, effort towards the events that are coming up that are quote-unquote city events. So, you are the voting power, but I would ask the council come to a decision tonight about what they want to do, please.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would move that the city spend $4,500 going towards the 4th of July celebration and assist where we can in making this a successful event.
Can you repeat your dollar sign again?
4,500. Excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can I make a point of clarification to make sure that we're all on the same page? These funds are going to come from a source different than what has been budgeted in the community events budget line item. And part of these funds are going to pay for the fire, police, and public works employees working the event. Did I say anything that anybody disagrees with on the council? Okay.
Teresa, did you hear all of that?
But I thought we, for the police.
I don't think we caught what you said.
I said, I did hear, but I thought we couldn't, what I understood from this is that $4,500 would include the $1,300 for the fire department, the $252 for the public works, and potential fireworks costs. Is that not correct?
I'm not sure how, Michael, I guess you can elaborate as to where you come
Sure.
up with the $4,500 number.
I was taking my cue from Dennis that he's at $4,000. Looking at the numbers that I have, that I wrote down, including the insurance, it was roughly $4,067 for all of the things above the top line. And so I added $500 to that just to make sure that it was covered. And the numbers jive pretty much at an ask or at a gift or a payment of $4,500 when then it looks to be that the foundation is going to put in excess of $13,200 to this, or 3.5 times whatever the city budget is. That, and if there are available funds, Dennis, outside of special events, I don't see why we just can't make the decision to move forward and get her done.
To make this easy and simple, I hope, the $4,500 will pay for the fire personnel coverage, the public works personnel coverage, and then the balance would go to a contribution to the fireworks, not to exceed $4,500.
That seems a lot clearer, thank you.
Teresa,
Oh, go ahead.
Teresa, does that answer your question? It does answer my question. I just wanted to, so then I see this more of also a quote unquote collaborative effort or whatever that case may be, from the perspective of insurance and from the perspective of you've done so many collaborative efforts with the foundation. I personally am put off as well by kind of our approach to this. So I will just say that's how I feel about it at this juncture. I still think that because we are making a contribution to the fireworks, we've done that in the past, it's different for somebody else who's coming and renting the facility, that we're not making a contribution and who's not an ongoing partner that makes contributions to our community on a daily basis.
Susan?
Well, I think I'd like to address what you said, Teresa. I don't know that everybody here sitting at this table or even here understand what we have gone through as Lauren and I have gone through in the last 2 weeks. There were 2 posts on Facebook that were posted that had incorrect information that I know I fielded a lot of different upset people until I told them kind of what the real thing was going on. So this has been very time consuming, and we have gone through, and I don't think that we have done anything to make it that we are not coming forth to the foundation in a collaborative way, because we started off in February saying that we were done, we weren't gonna do anything with the July 4th event. So that's, we've been very clear through our timelines that this is not something that we were going to do. So I don't think that I can sit up here and say that we have not come to, or we did not provide this out in a nice way, because you haven't seen the emails back and forth. You haven't been through, what we have gone through. We sat there for an hour discussing this. We didn't even get to discuss the rest of our special events stuff on the agenda, because we had to go through and talk this through, and then it got changed on us. And while I appreciate that the foundation is giving more money, I also think sometimes it was just a very stressful time that didn't have to be stressful. I think that I just want to say thank you to Dennis for kind of being there to kind of support us and kind of lead us during some of the trying times here. So I appreciate that. But I don't think that how we presented anything was in a harmful way or even in a mean-spirited way, because we did have a compromise that we were going to provide from March 25th. So that's kind of where we were coming from, is this is what we thought, and now things kind of got changed, so.
So the motion by Mr. Libby, $4,500, Dennis laid it out what that can cover, and I believe, Lauren, did you second that?
I did.
All right. Council, is there further discussion on Mr. Libby's motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Are we gonna ask for anybody else's opinion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Does anybody from the public have any comments about Mr. Libby's motion?
I'm Colleen Kelleher, and I live at 6529 Colby.
I think the motion is generous. It was my understanding that there wasn't gonna be a 4th of July, city wasn't gonna contribute or have a 4th of July event. So now that, and the foundation wants to have it, and the city is willing to contribute $4,500 towards an event that they had planned on, I think is very generous. I'm looking forward to the fall festival. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? Roll call.
Michael Levine,
Aye.
Lauren Campbell,
Yes.
Susan Skiris,
Yes.
and Teresa Harms.
Yeah.
Another controversial item, the 6B, consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Robert D. and Billy Ray Center at Drake University for facilitation services. Motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Dennis?
I'm just excited about this process and kicking it off. I've had individual conversations with most of you on the council, and it's going to take some time. And I just want to make sure that I reiterate that because of the graciousness of Scott and Cassandra, we are moving forward with something that we thought may not move forward, but now we're all just going to be flexible with our time. If we run into a portion of the year where schedules are conflicting, we're just going to be patient and move on until that window of availability moves on for the next meeting or retreat or whatever is next on our schedule. But I would be remiss if I did not mention Cassandra, who has sat patiently through all of this. She's now an expert in special events planning.
She will be after this.
Yeah,
Actually. We'll sign you up as a volunteer, watch out.
Cassandra, if you don't mind, if you could just come up to the podium, introduce your company, your collaboration with Scott, and I don't want you to just take us through the whole proposal, but I think it's important for the council to understand ahead of time the option A portion of your proposal and what that analytics piece means. So.
Absolutely. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Cassandra Halls. Just say hello to everyone here behind. And I also want to say good evening from Scott Racker. He was not able to join us tonight because he did have a pretty significant loss in his family last week, so that's why he is not here. Scott is obviously with Drake University, and he and I have worked together for a very long time on a lot of really big projects here in the metro, ranging from re-establishing, redesigning the DART transportation governance structure, to most recently helping facilitate conversations with the Des Moines Public Schools and how they approach their athletic facilities and investment in athletic facilities. So we have a wide range of skills and how we leverage each other's strengths as we navigate some of these crucial conversations. So I know you've spent a lot of time in this proposal. The one thing that I want to say to you as we approach this, what's really important to us, and I think what's really important to you as we think about the vision for Windsor Heights and moving forward, is perspective. So thinking about what the possibilities are for the community and thinking about perspective from absolutely every angle. So not only your perspective as a city council, but also community perspective and stakeholder perspective from the shoes of the staff, but also external perspective and how your peers see what your assets and your opportunities are, and also what your challenges are when you think about how you recruit business and economic opportunity, and how you recruit and retain your community members and just citizens here in your community. So Windsor Heights is a wonderful community, and you have so much opportunity, but the world has changed. Oh my gosh, it's changed for everyone. So thinking about all of your potential is an exciting journey to be on, and you are ahead of the curve in taking on this challenge now. So as Dennis points out, we wanted to pay some special attention to phase 3, which is the SWOT analysis, and under option A, strategy is an area of my expertise that I have been working on for many years. I am actually a former city manager here in Iowa. I've managed 2 cities and served as CFO city clerk for a third. So thinking strategically about cities and doing strategic planning is something I have a ton of experience in. But coming to do a SWOT analysis, there's 2 approaches that we can take. So bringing in all of this research that we do and capturing all of this perspective. We can do a traditional SWOT analysis, which is option B that we have in the proposal, which is we get all of the data, we bring it in, and we do a meeting where we spend a lot of time talking about what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we recognize from the data. So when you think about strengths and weaknesses, those are things from an internal perspective that you as a body have an ability to influence from an internal perspective. So strengths would be, just as an easy example, staff. You can influence things that are happening with staff. Weaknesses might be budget. You have some internal control over budget, right? Opportunities and threats. Threats are the easy ones that I can throw out to you right now. Is anybody expecting a global pandemic? Did you have that in your scope of work for 2019 or 2020? Probably not. So we can be in a room and we can talk about those things, but in a traditional SWOT analysis, it's everybody just kind of speaking, you're sharing your thoughts off of top of mind, just as we share with you the data and how the analysis kind of shakes out. Option A is something I've been working on over the last 24 months to put together a unique process for analyzing that data. It's a little bit of a different approach where we would spend some time sharing with you the data and how the trends have kind of come forward. I don't know how a lot of your minds work, but I kind of have a processing brain. So give you all of the information. Is anybody good at processing lots of information on the fly, or do you like time to think about it?
What?
I need to marinate.
Yeah, me too. So in sharing with you all of the data, what option A gives us an opportunity to do is share with you all of the data and then give you a chance to think about it. I have a process where I would give you a worksheet that I would ask you to analyze in your own time and your own way how the data sits with you. You give me all of your thoughts and comments, send it to me, and then I can compile all of your thoughts and comments and actually look for the trends in what you share. So you give it all to me in your own way. You write down your thoughts, not looking for you to give me a paper or an essay, looking for you to give me sentences, bullet pointed thoughts. And then I compile all of those and put it into trends. But then I can turn your comments and thoughts into actually quantitative data. So I can turn your comments into percentages. So we can actually look at what your weighted percentages are of what the comments that you're sharing. So if we're in a conversation, the loud voices might say, funding might be a huge priority. But if I get all of your voices together in a way that I can truly analyze them, there might be other thoughts that come to the top of the priority list that we may not hear because we don't have all of the voices together. Does that make sense as I say it? So if you have time to really think about the data, put all of your thoughts down on paper, give it to me, let me trend it, then I can give you back the actual quantitative data. The other thing is there might be other perspectives that we can do that same kind of tracking with if we have a little bit of space between sharing with you the data and getting those worksheets back. So it's definitely a more accurate kind of conversation. It's a more inclusive conversation, certainly, because everybody's voice is heard in the process. All of the comments are heard. And then it's more, instead of being reactive, we just present the themes and say, here's where the percentages are at, folks. This is the reality of what your thoughts have. My 5 minutes must be up. What your thoughts of what you've shared. So it certainly is robust, and it's eye-opening for folks. So that's just something that's easier to kind of, once you have the description, a lot of folks will go, that's more the conversation we want to have than just being in a room and reacting to the comments. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the proposal, but we certainly are excited to be part of your process. Like I said, Scott and I are a great team, and we've we're excited about the work we've been able to accomplish, and we certainly expect the same results working with you, so.
We do have a question,
Sure.
Sandra. There are so many trends happening in the world today, much different than what they were just 2.5 years ago.
Sure.
And are you in Schedule A of this, do you offer those trends to us so that we're aware of maybe the major issues that many communities face?
Absolutely. We have best practice comparatives that we can do. The one caveat I'll give you right now, and this is what's interesting, one of my other areas of expertise is in workforce. And the interesting thing is right now, we can't get workforce data because there are so many unknowns. So that's my one caveat, is I can give you best practices, but things are changing so quickly right now. People are still kind of trying to figure out what their new normal is. So it's hard to be super definitive right now because things are just changing so quickly.
You're so true on that workforce issue. You know, it's plaguing every business that I talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I really like what you're describing for the SWOT homework and bringing that data in. One thing that makes me nervous is I'm on the beginning of month 4 on city council, and so I feel like there's some blind spots for myself where I might not, as part of that homework, might not be thinking of some of the things that Susan or Joseph or Teresa are familiar with. So is there anything that we can do as pre-homework homework? I was an overachiever in school, just FYI, to best prepare when it comes to that.
See, Lauren, this is one of the things about this process that I just love, because this is where having the insight from all of the perspectives for you will be incredibly powerful. So the piece of advice that I will give you is study the perspectives that we bring to you, because you're going to be hearing from all of your constituents.
Sure.
So that, I think, is what's going to be the most educational part of this process for you,
Sure.
is just seeing all of that perspective.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And then if you have questions, ask.
Absolutely.
And that goes for all of you. We also want this to be an enjoyable process, so we do like to have some fun along the way too.
Thank you for taking the time and sitting through our lovely meeting that we had today, so.
You can tell we're a fun group.
This isn't easy business, right? I think the movie The American President with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening, right? These are serious times, and it takes serious people to do it, so you all should be commended for being willing to take on the challenge.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Teresa, any questions from you?
I don't, thank you so much. I know you and I know Scott, and so I'm thrilled that you guys are teaming up and excited to work with both of you, so thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. If no further discussion, roll call.
Susan Skiris,
Yes.
Michael Libby,
Yes.
Lauren Campbell,
Yes.
and Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Reports. I sent an email to council today, but just addressing some of those things in public. Citywide garage sale is on the 14th of May, hoping to get a form up on the website that will be provided to me. I will put together a map and provide that to the general public the Monday before that Saturday. Public Works Committee are currently, was supposed to meet on Tuesday, did not, as the formal repair sheet was not completed. When that is completed, I assume that we will reconvene and make a recommendation as to whether or not purchasing a new front end loader. Communications Committee will meet on Wednesday. I think that's it from me. Keeping with the order, Ms. Harms.
All right, put myself back on mute. We have a communications committee meeting on Wednesday, and then next week, MAC, and I think that is all for me for right now. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell.
Special events met, as everyone knows, and I think that's it.
Mr. Libby?
I want to just say thank you, sorry. Just want to say thank you to the staff of the CIP. I think it was a well-done document, and so appreciate all the time that went into that. Public Works Committee meeting, I'm looking forward to that as well, Dalton. And tomorrow at 9 o'clock, should you want to break out your gardening gloves, Keep Windsor Heights Beautiful Group is meeting at Colby Park to do a little cleanup. That would be my report, sir.
Thank you. I assume Joseph's gonna be quiet tonight. Ms. Scaries?
He's been quiet all night.
Yeah.
That's
Lucky
unusual. As we all know, special events met on the 25th. I really do want to say thank you to Chief McCluskey, to Public Works Director, to Dalton, to Dennis, to Mike Jones for helping the Special Events Committee with providing us staffing numbers, the staffing costs, answering phone calls when I had questions about the numbers because they just weren't all jiving. So just really want to say thank you for taking the time to help us as we tried to plod through this. So appreciate the time and, you know, the attention that you guys took to help us get through this. Lauren and I met on Saturday to discuss Fall Festival as well as movies in the park. So we're going to be kind of looking at sponsorships here for the movies in the park. So my little shameless plug here for, you know, Special Events Committee. If you want to be a sponsor for the movies in the park and you haven't been before, make sure you email me or give Lauren or I a call. We're not just looking at businesses, but also residents in the city that would like to be event sponsors. So maybe you're looking at ways to celebrate Grandma's 80th birthday or Mom and Dad's 50th anniversary. Since we know they probably have everything under the sun, you know, let's have them sponsor an event at Movies in the Park. We also are looking for any volunteers that would like to help with any of the events that are within our city here. Metro Waste Executive Finance Board meets on Wednesday. Public Works, I have down on my calendar that we're supposed to have a meeting April 18th. Am I correct? Or?
That's the next council meeting. We haven't scheduled it yet. I haven't got the report back from them.
Okay, because I thought like we were scheduling it every third or whatever.
Yeah, I think that maybe we were trying to figure out, are we gonna set a monthly meeting each month, but I don't think that's actually been formalized, so.
Okay. So
I
I
think
can take
you're
that
ahead
off
of the
my calendar.
curve.
I'll go ahead and take that off my calendar.
Tentatively, yes.
Take it up tentatively.
And I think that's it, other than I have learned a lot about front-end loaders. I think I can almost be a salesperson for Case or John Deere at this point in time. Found myself a new career.
Dennis, anything from you or staff?
I would just echo what Councilor Libby said. Dalton and Rochelle did great work on the CIP. All staff actually contributed that, but Dalton and Rochelle really did the heavy lifting, so I think it's a great document.
And Justin, again.
City engineer did a good job too.
He's a consultant.
Yeah.
All right, if nothing else for the order, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
She's out.
She's gone.
I'd say you can count Trace as a yes.
That's the one.
Roll call for the remainder of the council.
Susan Skerrys.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Clark.
Yes.
We're adjourned, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Justin.
Dalton, that was so rude of you.
Did you?
I have no idea. Really?
I've been doing the taste test every night. I've had like 15 bags. We had kids.
Right, I won whole 5 of them.
And yet you still haven't gained a pound.
I don't eat lunch. You want some?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Three utilities, electric,
Hey, Dalton.
Just collecting checks.
I'm not collecting your left here.